Welcome back everyone. Hi, if you're new, my name is Tori and today I'm going to be blind reacting to the 2021 Goodreads Choice Awards nominees for science fiction and fantasy. Quite honestly, I cannot believe it is that time of year again where we are voting for the Goodreads Choice Awards. It is just, the year has flown by, so I'm really excited to see what the nominees look like this year. And like I mentioned, I am only going to do science fiction and fantasy blind reaction because I already know I will not have read anything from any of the other categories, so we're just gonna reel it in and just focus on 2 categories only. If you're familiar with the Goodreads Choice Awards, they come under fire a lot. Like, it's just become, you know, a bit of a popularity contest in recent years. And then also last year they had nominees on the fantasy list, and I think on the sci-fi list too. They had nominees on the list that weren't even out yet, so I am going to give you guys some predictions, but quite honestly I will not be surprised if we see something like Jade Legacy, which would just be wild if we see it somewhere on the fantasy list. So this is all in good fun. I do really enjoy the Goodreads Choice Awards every year, so I cannot wait to see which sci-fi and fantasy books have made the list this time around. I keep looking over here because my laptop is like on my Goodreads profile page and ready to go. The Goodreads Choice Awards button is like right there. So I do have 4 predictions in sci-fi and fantasy. I don't read a ton of new releases, and I'm actually largely unfamiliar with a lot of the fantasy books that have come out in the past year, but just because I have been hearing a lot of buzz about some specific titles, I'm going to include those in my predictions list. So in science fiction, I'm a little more confident with these. I am just 150% sure that Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir is going to be somewhere on the sci-fi list. This was one of the biggest science fiction releases of 2021. So many people have read this, so many people love this, so I would be a little confused, a little shocked if this is not somewhere on the list. I'm actually currently reading it myself. I'm almost 100 pages in, and I'm actually really enjoying it, given that I didn't enjoy The Martian at all. So yeah, I think this is going to be somewhere on the list, and that's just that. It is what it is. It's going to be there. And then the next prediction that I have for the science fiction list is A Desolation Called Peace by Arkady Martine, which is book 2 in the Taxicalon duology. So I read A Memory Called Empire, and I love that so much. So A Desolation Called Peace was one of my anticipated releases for 2021, like it was for a lot of people, but unfortunately I just did not get around to reading it this year. But it is on my TBR for early 2022. And I don't think I've mentioned this already, but I'm not actually going to be voting in the science fiction like early round in this video, because I would like to set some time aside in December to read like maybe 1 or 2 books on the list that I haven't heard of, or maybe is on my TBR but just haven't gotten around to yet. But unfortunately I don't think A Desolation Called Peace is going to be one of them. If it is on the list, it might not even be there, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be there. But this is just almost 500 pages and just really dense, and I'm just not really in the mood for A Desolation Called Peace at this point in the year, so I am going to put this off until early in 22. Another prediction that I have, this might be more of like an underdog, since I feel like the Goodreads Choice Awards is just based on like buzz and popularity of certain books. So this is kind of an underdog, but I won't be surprised if I see We Are Satellites on the list by Sarah Pinsker, which I've heard nothing but good things about so far, but still haven't heard too much buzz about it. There was a little bit of hype before it came out, and then a couple of booktubers that I follow did read this and really enjoyed it. So I think if it's on the list, it'll definitely be like kind of that underdog pick. And then my last sci-fi prediction is A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. At this point, Becky Chambers is just really well known within the sci-fi book community, and A Psalm for the Wild Built was a really great novella, just so warm and comforting, and I really did enjoy reading it this year. So I could definitely see that being somewhere on the sci-fi list. I'm actually not sure how many books are nominated every year, or if it's the same number every year, but we'll see. But I do anticipate we might see that somewhere on the list. For fantasy, my predictions are a little bit more all over the place. Like I mentioned, I barely follow new releases for science fiction, so I definitely do not follow them for fantasy. I am just extremely out of the loop when it comes to fantasy books and what fantasy people are reading at the moment. But I feel like 2 that have really risen above a lot of the noise, at least for me, like being someone who is still like a little on the outskirts of like what's new in the fantasy community. The big one is Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. I am pretty sure that's going to be on the best fantasy list somewhere. Like, that's huge. A lot of people were anticipating that. I unfortunately didn't get around to it this year, but I would like to read it sometime in 22, and it's actually sitting like right there, so I'll get to it sometime in the new year. And then another one that I'm really confident that we'll see on the fantasy list is the new, I almost said the new Throne of Glass book. what is it? A Court of Thorns and Roses, whatever the latest book was in the series that came out in like earlier this year. That's going to be somewhere on the list too. I feel like I know so much about that series and I don't even read the series. Whatever the latest book was that came out this year is hands down going to be somewhere on the fantasy list. The other book that I'm anticipating seeing on the best fantasy list is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. This is one that I feel like was getting so much buzz before it even came out, and then when it came out, it just like it blew up. So this has a really great chance of being somewhere on the list as well. And then finally, my fourth prediction for the fantasy list is The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, which is another big kind of buzzy fantasy release that came out this year, and I did read that. So many people love that book, so there is a very high possibility that it's going to be somewhere on the list. So I'm staring at my Goodreads profile page right now, so we're going to just put the screen recording on and get right into the video and see what's going on. So let's get into the video. All right, let's do this, guys. Wow, this is just what I can't believe. Like I said, I can't believe we're here again. Like the best books of the year. Where has the time gone? I already see in the corner over here that Remote Control was nominated in best science fiction. I completely forgot that Remote Control came out in 2021. That feels like it came out last year, but I did read that and I really enjoyed it. So that's exciting to see that on the best sci-fi list. Okay, and then another one on my shelves that I have is The Last Watch in best science fiction. That is exciting. I didn't read that, but I think it's on my like want to read TBR shelf. Oh, here's the voting schedule. Okay, the opening round is the 16th through the 28th. Oh, okay, let's do this. Sci-fi is right here. Actually, no, let's do fantasy first. Let's do fantasy and build the anticipation towards science fiction. That seems like it'll be cool. Okay, best fantasy. Oh my god, A Master of Jinn is on the list. I was loud, I'm sorry to my neighbors. I don't know why I forgot. I mean, I didn't forget about this. I read A Master of Jinn earlier in the year and I loved it, but I always associate like the Goodreads Choice Awards with like just super popular releases. And even though A Master of Jinn and PJ Lee Clark, like the popularity for Clark is growing a lot, especially I feel like it's grown this year, but I still feel like not a lot of people are really talking about A Master of Jinn. So, you know, I didn't really even think about it, that it would be on the Goodreads Choice Awards. That is really exciting to see. Okay, I did read that. I'm really happy about that. That's awesome. Okay, what else is on here? I'm already seeing some covers that are not familiar. So the first is The Book of Magic by Alice Hoffman. I'm familiar with Alice Hoffman like as an author. I know she's the author of Practical Magic, but I have not personally read anything by Alice Hoffman, so I'm unfamiliar with The Book of Magic, but I have heard of that author. Okay, so already one of the predictions is on the list. We have The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. That is really exciting about A Master of Jinn being on this list. So next is A Spindle Splintered by Alex E. Harrow, and I'm also familiar with Alex E. Harrow's work, but have not personally read A Spindle Splintered. And let's just scroll on down. Actually, I haven't read anything by Alex E. Harrow. What am I talking about? But I know about her other books. The next is The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which from Blood and Ash. Oh yeah, okay. That's a From Blood and Ash book. I didn't realize she was that deep into the series already on book 3. Didn't From Blood and Ash just come out last year? How is she already on book 3? I don't know. I actually have From Blood and Ash on my TBR, but I don't know, the more the time passes, I'm just like, do I really want to read From Blood and Ash? I don't know, my interest in it is just kind of, it's been dwindling a lot, so we'll see though. Next is The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed. I have seen that going around this year. I'm not familiar though, like what the reviews have really been like though. I haven't been paying attention too much to that. The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nevo. Yeah, I've seen that going around. Sorrowland by River Solomon. That's exciting. Yeah, again, have not read any of these. So the next is Malice by Heather Walter. I've not heard of that. I'm not familiar with that at all. Next is For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. Yep, I've seen that going around too. Just some pretty mixed reviews actually, but yeah, no surprise to see that on the list. Ariadne is on here by Jennifer Saint. I remember when that released. Oh, The Last Graduate is on here by Naomi Novik. This is the second book in, I did not know that's what the name of that series was called. I was gonna say it's the second book in the Deadly Education series, but okay, that works too. All right, let's scroll on down. So next is The Hidden Palace by Helene Wecker. Oh, okay, I didn't know the Golem and the Genie I didn't know that was a series at all. The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. I've seen that going around. The Witch's Heart by Genevieve. I'm not going to try to pronounce her last name. I have not heard of this book. The Unbroken by C.L. Clark is on here. I know a lot of people have really enjoyed that book this year. I mean, so far, you guys, I have not read a thing on this list except for A Master of Jinn by P. Jelly Clark. So next is Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. Yes, that has been extremely buzzy. I know that has definitely been going around. I've heard of this next book. I've seen that. That was a book of the month pick. I remember a lot of people talking about this one. Yeah, personally have not read it. That's it, A Court of Silver Flames. I was like, why can't I think of the name of this book? Yes, this is the latest A Court of book, whatever you want to call it. What is this series called? A Court of Thorns and Roses series? Yeah, the ACOTAR series, as people like to abbreviate. And then the last one is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan, one of our other predictions. That is really, really exciting. Empire of the Vampire is not on here. Wait a second. Empire of the Vampire is not on this list. That is really interesting. Okay. You know what? My initial reaction is like, oh, Court of Silver Flames is gonna win. I feel like every time Sarah J Maas comes out with a new book, it's always the Goodreads Choice Award for Best Fantasy. But last year, this is why I'm thinking this year, some of these other books might give A Court of Silver Flames a run for its money, because last year House of Earth and Blood won the Goodreads Choice Awards, but there were some other books on that list that were getting kind of creeping up there in the votes. So you never know what's gonna happen, but yeah, that one sticks out to me as being the most popular on this list. But I mean, there is a lot of love for some of these other books this year, like She Who Became the Sun. I've been seeing that a lot. Like, that could easily take the spot. Jasmine Throne, a lot of people love that. A Master of Jinn. You know what? I'm gonna vote for A Master of Jinn right now. Like, I'm not gonna read any of these. So I'm not gonna read any of these by the time voting closes. I don't really have an interest in a lot of these, quite honestly, but I did read and love A Master of Jinn, so we'll vote for that one. All right, and now finally, to end the anticipation, let's click on the best fantasy of 2021, the best science fiction of 2021. Oh my God, I forgot about The Echo Wife, like completely. Completely forgot about The Echo Wife. I did read that this year and it was actually really good, but that did not cross my mind as one that would be on the Goodreads Choice Awards. That is so funny. Remote Control, we already saw that one. That is awesome. Light from Uncommon Stars, I am unfamiliar with that. Constance by Matthew Fitzsimmons, I'm also unfamiliar with that one, unfortunately. Let's scroll on down. Star Wars. Okay, these Star Wars books. I feel like one of these Star Wars books made the list last year. I am very unfamiliar with like what is going on with these Star Wars books. I am a huge Star Wars fan, like grew up in a Star Wars household, so I love Star Wars, but I want to get into the books, but some of these books are a little confusing to me. I'm not sure like what exactly the entry point is supposed to be into these Star Wars High Republic books. I feel like some of them are like young adult books and then I see some of them in the adult section, so I have no idea, but I do, you know, I would like to read one of these. So then next is Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. I've seen that going around, but just I don't really have a desire to read that. The End of Men, I have not heard of that, unfortunately. Rabbits by Terry Miles, I haven't heard of that either. Oh my gosh, what is going on? This is so embarrassing. Girl One by Sarah Flannery Murphy, have not seen this before. Like, this is, I should have rethought this video. So, okay, finally, one of our like predictions is on the list about Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Again, like that is no surprise there. Like I mentioned, or maybe I didn't, I'm actually really enjoying that. I'm almost 100 pages into it and I'm getting on with that book so much better than I did with The Martian. And it still has like that kind of humorous character, but there's just something about the story, and the stakes are a lot higher, and the tension just feels a lot different than The Martian, that I think that's the reason why I'm enjoying it more than The Martian. So I am going to finish that before the Goodreads voting ends and see where it stands. But yeah, so far I've only read The Echo Wife and Remote Control. So let's keep scrolling. Firebreak. So okay, this is another one that is like kind of, I feel like this is more of like a kind of underdog sort of nominee, because I have not seen anybody talking about Firebreak. I downloaded this for my Kindle a couple of months ago because I was like, oh, that sounds like Ready Player One, and so it was really intriguing, so I downloaded it but haven't read it yet. But yeah, I have not seen too many people talking about that, but I do own that. The next is Machine Hood, which I also am unfamiliar with. Winter's Orbit. I completely forgot about Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. This is also on my TBR. So many people have been telling me I need to read this book. It is, I swear, it's on my shelf, like literally displayed on the shelf right behind me. I need to get to that eventually. That is exciting to see that on the list. Okay, move mouse. So next is Appleseed by Matt Bell. I am not familiar with that at all. A Desolation Called Peace by Arcady Martin. Okay, one of the predictions is on here. That's exciting, and also kind of no surprise, like that was a lot of people's highly anticipated sci-fi release this year. Another one, A Song for the Wild Built, another prediction, is on the list by Becky Chambers. Again, really no surprise there. Like, Becky Chambers at this point is just very well loved in the sci-fi community. Next is The Last Watch by J.S. Dews, and I actually have this on my TBR. Like, I think I've already marked this. Yeah, I want to read that. I marked that as one to read a while ago. Shards of Earth by Adrian Tchaikovsky is on the list. I completely forgot about that. Not even that I forgot about it, but again, this is like one that I feel like I have not really heard a lot of people talking about. So I just didn't even really think about it being on the Goodreads choice list, but I have it, like, yeah, it's literally right behind me. So this is one that I did want to get to sooner rather than later, but this is definitely going to be like a 2022 read. Next we have Termination Shock by Neil Stephenson, and I knew Neil Stephenson had a new novel coming out, but this is my first time like seeing it and seeing like what the book actually is, but that's exciting. I know a lot of people love Neil Stephenson in the community. And next is Fugitive Telemetry by Martha Wells, which this has to be a murder bot, but yeah. Murder Bot number 6, goodness. I stopped reading those after the first one. It's just not for me. All right, so how many is that? So there's 4 in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, so 5. So 20 nominees. So of these 20, I have read 1, 2. This is so embarrassing. 3. I've read 3 of the 20, almost 4, soon to be 4 for Project Hail Mary, and then let's see, for December, like I mentioned, I do want to carve out time in December to read at least, at least one or two. That would be ideal, but at least one. And I think I'm going to make that one Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell, just because that is one that has been, I've kind of been eyeing that on my TBR for a while. So December might be a good time to finally read that. A Desolation Called Peace. I don't know, like I really want to read that. I'm excited to read it, but I feel like I'm not in the mood to read A Desolation Called Peace. Like A Memory Called Empire, that is such an excellent book, but that is a lot. Like the world building is a lot, the politics are a lot, and I'm just like I'm not in that headspace right now to consume something like A Desolation Called Peace. So honestly, I think I might just hold off on that until like sometime early in 2022. But yeah, I'm gonna carve out some time to read Winter's Orbit, and I think Firebreak is kind of long if I remember correctly, so I'm not gonna read that, but maybe Winter's Orbit and maybe The Last Watch. Let's see. This has been on my TBR. Let's look and see how long this is. Oh my god, that's 480 pages. No. I'm gonna stick to Winter's Orbit for now and see where that goes. And then after I read that, I'll come back before the voting round ends in round 1 and vote and see how that goes. So, you know what, just for kicks, I'm gonna go down and look at the YA fantasy and sci-fi. So I did read The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan He. I didn't really enjoy that, but I did read it. Namesake, that looks like it's the sequel to Fable, which I actually do own. Realm Breaker, but yeah. The only reason I know what Realm Breaker is because Victoria Aveyard is on TikTok. And a few months ago, she was popping up on my For You page all the time. So I do know what Realm Breaker is, but some of these other ones, Once Upon a Broken Heart, that's Stephanie Garber's new book. These Hollow Vows, never heard of it. Our Violent Delights, that's the second book in our Violent Delights series. A Sky Beyond the Storm by Saba Tahir, that is... I did not realize an Ember in the Ashes series was still going. When did this... Oh, 2020. Okay, I thought the series ended in like 2019. Close enough. What else is on here? Lost in the Neverwoods, I've never heard of that. King of... No, don't know what that is, by Holly Black. I've seen House of Hollow going around. I've seen that more on like TikTok than I have on BookTube, which is interesting. Rule of Wolves, that's no surprise. Lee Bardugo. Iron Widow, I've never heard of that. Lore by Alexandra Bracken, yeah, I heard of that earlier in the year. People were talking about it. If I remember correctly, nobody liked that. Then next is, what is this? A Vow So Bold and Deadly. I don't know what that is. A Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. That has to, is this still a Mortal Instruments book? The Last Hours. This must be a book in the, you know what I'm trying to say, the universe, the Shadowhunter, yeah, Shadowhunters universe, that's it. Six Crimson Cranes. What? Hold on. Wait. Six Crimson Cranes. I own that. But this cover on Goodreads is throwing me off because, hold on, let me get it. It's like actually right behind me. That cover was throwing me off because this is the cover that I own. And also, I did not realize that this was YA or a 2021 release. I got this from Half Price Books for $5. And it was nowhere near like the new release section. So that is really interesting. I had no clue. Next is The Gilded Ones. I do have that actually. It was a gift from my cousin. I have not read that though. I did not know Rainbow Rowell was still writing. And then the last one on this list is We Free the Stars, which this has to be... That is not what I thought this series was called. I was about to say it's the We Hunt the Flame series, but that was book 1. Okay. All right, let me just get out of this section. This is why I did not initially want to come in here. And I'm not even going to try with anything else over here, like fiction, literary fiction. No. Well, that is it for me, you guys. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Let me know down in the comments if you want to, let me know what you're going to vote for, what you're excited for the Choice Awards. Let me know a book that you feel was snubbed from the Choice Awards this year in science fiction and fantasy. I want to hear about it. And yeah, I cannot believe we're here at the end of the year, you guys. My best books of 2021 list is coming soon. It's a few weeks away. It's just going to be really exciting. But yeah, overall, it's been an okay reading year. Not the greatest I've ever had. Certainly not the worst, but definitely not the greatest. I feel like I've read a lot of good books this year, but I've also read a lot of mediocre books this year, books I didn't like. And so the books that I loved, my top 10, which is still kind of changing at the moment, my top 10 list are just the standouts of 2021. So I'm excited to share that with you in the coming weeks, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.